The Last of Us Season 1 finale proves Joel is not a hero and shouldn't be considered one. Editor's note: the below contains spoilers for the Season 1 finale of The Last of Us and The Last of Us, Part 2 video game. Naughty Dog's The Last of Us first debuted in 2013. Since then, fans of the game have followed Joel Miller, Troy Baker, and Ellie Williams, Ashley Johnson, as they traverse and survive a post-apocalyptic world ravaged by a mutated strand of the cordyceps fungus. With the critically acclaimed HBO original show finally airing its season finale, a surge in the brand's fandom has taken hold with no signs of slowing down. Alongside every episode, viewers have rooted for the pair to make it through this journey, with Joel, Pedro Pascal, cast as the story's hero, and Ellie, Bella Ramsey, as humanity's sacrificial savior. Once you dig past the surface of this assumed hero's journey, however, it stands to reason that Joel isn't actually much of a hero, or even a reluctant one at that. Joel is deeply, emotionally damaged, and above all else, human. Before we jump too far ahead, this doesn't necessarily villainize him, as he isn't a bad person. What it does mean is that fans shouldn't champion him as they do. Joel's traits place him closer to an anti-hero at best, especially when you consider that the results, especially when it comes to Ellie's development, come out entirely too ruinous to justify looking up to him. This may be a hard thing for fans to digest, but the evidence can be seen everywhere in his actions as well as his thought process. Joel Miller is deeply damaged. Joel is a loving father who will do anything for his children. This is consistently evidenced in the introduction of both the game and the television series when we see him interact with his daughter, Sarah, Nico Parker. As an example, in the show, Joel has Sarah visit with their elderly neighbors as a way to bestow a sense of community on her, and in both media, we see him as the fond father that he is. While none of this is an evil trait by any means, there can be dangerous and toxic effects when this level of fatherhood is damaged as heavily as Joel has been. After Sarah dies in his arms, Joel is devastated and barricades himself emotionally. This assists in his survival as he falls into his new social role as a smuggler and man for hire, due to it requiring little emotional investment until a Firefly rebel, Marlene Merle Dandridge, contracts Joel and his partner, Tess, Anna Torv, to transport Ellie to St. Mary's Hospital, a Firefly clinic in Salt Lake City, Utah. Though Joel attempts to maintain an emotional distance from Ellie at first, this leads to those same barriers being progressively broken down. In the series, Joel refers to Ellie as cargo and even tries desperately to pass her off to his brother, Tommy, Gabriel Luna, reasoning that he's better suited to get her to the hospital since he's a former Firefly, but later rescinds and takes her himself. While on their trek to Utah, Ellie and Joel begin forming a bond that naturally takes on the tone of a father-daughter relationship. This is the same nature that someone with Joel's traumatic past would yearn for, as Ellie reminds him of Sarah. Joel Miller is manipulative. After saving Ellie's life in Utah, Joel lies to her, saying that there are actually many more like her that are immune, and it turns out that she didn't need to sacrifice herself. Although she doesn't fully believe him, she chooses to accept what he tells her in the last moments of the story's first part. This serves as a turning point where Joel switches from a rough-around-the-edges hero to the man who doomed the future of the world due to his trauma. It's also a moment that's revisited several times between him and Ellie off-scene, and one that's finally fully addressed in the second game. As an adult in her 20s, Ellie confronts Joel for the last time about the truth of what happened in Utah. She tells him she should have died in order to save humanity from the world they live in, and so her life actually mattered. We also learn throughout The Last of Us, Part 2, that Joel lied to Ellie further and manipulated her into believing that if anyone found out about her immunity, they'll want to hurt her. While the reason behind why he lied wasn't directly explained, it can be assumed that it was so he wouldn't lose her and reinforce the one he told her in Utah. Her instilled fear plays into her hesitation in opening up to Dina about her past and the significance of her tattoo, as we see in the video game. This fact and the last conversation between Ellie and Joel stand as prime evidence of the unwitting toxicity within Joel and the effect that it's had on Ellie. Joel Miller is an anti-hero. The Season 1 finale of The Last of Us effectively has the final word against any argument for Joel as a hero. As the Firefly doctors examine Ellie, they confirm that they can't extract a cure without killing her. Although this was a conclusion that loomed in the back of everyone's minds, Joel argues with Marlene to find another way. When she makes it clear that this is the only path to save humanity, Joel has a breakdown in a moment that spotlights just how traumatized he truly is and why, if we're to label him anything, it'd be an anti-hero. After cheering Joel and Ellie on to save humanity, fans are forced to witness their hero at his worst. Joel rampages through the hospital on a mission to stop the Fireflies and save Ellie due to the bond they created with each other as well as the deep trauma from losing his daughter. He kills everyone in his path, including the doctors operating on Ellie and, eventually, Marlene. What this could mean for The Last of Us Season 2. While no one can necessarily hate Joel, fans can equally agree with Ellie in calling him an asshole during what would be their final words with each other. It may seem like a shallow insult from a daughter to her father amidst a disagreement, but it has a much deeper context. Joel's decision in Utah was selfish and had calamitous results. It stole the purpose in Ellie's life after everything she'd endured up to that point. It effectively ensured the dark future of this new world that they now live in, and Joel's steadfastness in making that decision denies any wrongdoing on his part. In spite of Ellie's anger towards him, she knows this just as much as the audience does, and the fact that she's come to love and care for him as her surrogate father likely plays into her willingness to try to forgive him when no one would blame her if she didn't. It's entirely too early to know what direction the HBO show's second season will go, but we've already seen that actions have consequences in the world of The Last of Us. If it plays out like the source material, there will be strong ones for Joel. Find out more about how to watch Season 1 of The Last of Us on HBO and HBO Max.